Members, next we have House File 390 with Representative Zerwas. Representative Zerwas, if you want to move your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Following Rule 4.20, this bill was returned from the General Register to the previous committee. I would make a motion to return House File 390 to the General Register. Mr. Chair, members, House File 390 is the freeway, airport, and light rail transit obstruction bill. And Mr. Chair, I do have a DE1 amendment. The amendment is the language that we had in our omnibus bill, and it conforms to Senate language. I would like to make a motion to adopt the DE1.
Representative Hillstrom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If the DE amendment is different language, has there ever been public testimony on this language, or it doesn't really comply with the rules of it's as it was passed out? So that's just the question of, was there ever public testimony on the language in the DE1 amendment?
Representative Zerwas.
Mr. Chair and members, you might recall, if we go in the Wayback Machine, to the longest, most arduous conference committee ever known to man, in which nearly every provision that the House had in the omnibus bill, we had public testimony on. This provision was included in that language, and there was an opportunity for testimony.
Representative Dean.
So, Mr. Chair and Representative Zerwas, so the House language in this DE, there was debate, but the Senate language, there was no public testimony in this body on that. So I would say that I think we need to have public testimony on this. I know it would cause a problem and it would, create some difficulties, but clearly we have a different bill in front of us than when we took public testimony.
Representative Dean, this is the same language we had in our omnibus bill that we did take public testimony on.
Mr. Chair and members, just for everyone's clarification, for any confusion, we heard House File 390. We also heard Representative Lomer's bill. We passed both of those to the General Register. When the previous chair put together his omnibus bill, he used language that conformed to what the Senate had passed to the floor as a part of that omnibus bill. There was testimony as a part of the omnibus bill taken at that time, and then the entire House of Representatives voted on that language.
Thanks for the clarification.
Thank you. Representative Hillstrom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Once the DE is adopted, I'd like a roll call on the entire bill, Mr. Chair.
Roll call will be taken. Any other discussion on the amendment? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
The amendment is adopted. Representative Zerwas, please continue.
Well, Mr. Chair, the bill is before us in its appropriate form as it was in the omnibus bill previously. I have no additional comments or testifiers.
Any other questions from the committee? Representative Pinto.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Representative Zerwas, you were hearing me before, I think on other committee meetings as well, be real interested in how any changes we make fit into the broader statutory scheme. So I can see on the prior bill about texting and driving, I can see the gap where we say this kind of behavior is equivalent to this kind of behavior. I'm trying to understand how this would fit into that broader statutory scheme. You can assault your spouse or girlfriend and inflict a pretty fair amount of damage and have a misdemeanor. How does increasing the penalty on this fit into that broader statutory scheme that we have as far as how penalties fit together?
Representative Zerwas.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, members, as we've previously discussed, these criminal violations have significant impact and threats to health, life, and safety. They put officers, tow truck drivers, paramedics, and the general motoring public at great risk, along with unbelievable impact on individuals just trying to get to an airport, use a billion-dollar train, or access the freeway. And so we've deliberated as a body, and in a bipartisan vote, the House of Representatives has passed this language previously, so I think it fits in quite nice.
Representative Pinto.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess, so someone who restricts passenger access to a transit vehicle, stands in front of a door, whatever it is, and without force or violence, because to be clear, if there is force or violence, then that is a felony. But without that, I'm just trying to understand how that kind of behavior fits in more broadly. Maybe rather than, maybe I'll just say it seems to me that it really doesn't fit in well with the broader scheme. And I guess it's also notable to me that unlike other provisions, I do remember that debate, we didn't hear from law enforcement saying this is something that we feel that we need, and others. So I continue to, as I expressed last year as well, have great concerns with this, and yeah, I'm opposed. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Becker-Finn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And so looking at the DE1, lines 1.14 through 1.17, going to get really specific here, but I think it's worth noting, it's a little confusing where the ors and the commas are. So if you look at the last 1.16 to 1.17, or otherwise disrupt traffic, it sounds like the intent is that it would be it's your intent that it would be a gross misdemeanor for a person to, 1, interfere with or obstruct traffic that is entering, exiting, or on a freeway, or 2, entering, exiting, or on a public roadway. And the way this is currently written, it's a little unclear to me whether there's also or 3, otherwise disrupt traffic, which would be obviously, I think, a lot broader than the other 2 incidents that I think that you're trying to refer to. Could you speak a little bit to that? I mean, I'm hoping that you're following. It's the law review where the commas are really does matter type of thinking, but I think it's a little confusing as written.
Representative Zerwas.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, members, Representative Becker-Finn, I think if you read the entire sentence, it's a gross misdemeanor for a person to interfere with or obstruct traffic that is entering, exiting, or on a freeway, or entering or exiting, or on a public roadway within the boundaries of airport property with the intent to interfere with, obstruct, or otherwise disrupt traffic. So it also has the intent portion in there, and it's specific to roadways within the boundaries of airport property. I think it's important, if we're going to place where the comma is, that we read the entire sentence.
Representative Becker-Finn.
Mr. Chair, could you just remind me what the motion is for, where is this going next?
This will be going to the general register. Representative Becker-Finn.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just suggest, I think we're actually on the same page as far as agreeing what your intent is. It's just that we need to be really clear about that so that if you really are intending to do this, that it's doing what you think it's doing without some unintended consequences that would be, I think, even further than what you seem to want. So I'd encourage you to really look at that because it's concerning.
Mr. Chair.
Representative Zerwas.
Mr. Chair, with your permission and the assistance of Representative Becker-Finn, if you have a suggestion for where to place a comma, I'm all ears. And of course, if you can be helpful with the potential necessity of a floor amendment, that's something I would be open to as well.
Representative Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Representative Zerwas. I think I was pretty outspoken about this bill last time it came through.
I don't think we liked it.
Yeah. You know, what is your intent of this legislation? I mean, is your intent to actually stop people from doing this, which you can do that in many different ways, or is your intent to scare people from not participating in these protests, or is your intent to come down hard with a hammer with these individuals that participate in this type of activity? I think it's important for me to understand where your head's at in this, because I think that, you know, to me, this looks like a hammer right now. And we know that oftentimes these protests take place and these type of activities take place because people feel that they've been wronged, that there are injustices in our system, and that no one's listening or paying attention to them. And it's been proven and it's been effective in actually getting attention and getting people to listen. So if you could just sort of walk me through a little bit of your sort of ongoing tenacity, trying to make sure this thing happens as we're moving forward here, I'd appreciate it.
Representative Zerwas.
Mr. Chair, members, Representative Dean, I prefer persistence over tenacity. I think as we've talked in previous hearings, and I think the floor debate around this bill and I think other similar bills, I've often talked about the volatility and the danger that is present at these types of incidents, to motoring public, to individuals just trying to get where they need to go, to the individuals engaging in the illegal activity themselves, and to public safety officials responding to the incidents on the road. I have a sibling who supervises a group of metro area police officers that were on freeway I-94 during the protest, in which 3 police officers to the right of them, a University of Minnesota police officer, had a cinder block dropped on his head, in which he had a fractured vertebrae in his neck. Thank God it wasn't one of the police officers that my brother was supervising. It wasn't my brother who was standing in the wrong place when one of these unbelievably volatile and dangerous situations very predictably got even more volatile and dangerous. My intent, Representative Dean, is to, A, discourage this highly dangerous and illegal behavior, and B, punish those that are not deterred.
Representative Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Representative Zerwas, I think you just said all of the above in response to my question. But I want to, you know, you brought up the issue of the officer that had a concrete block or something that it was actually hit by. And if I'm not mistaken, that actually was from a bridge that happened. So your bill does nothing about this, and I believe we already have laws in place that make it illegal for you to throw things off a bridge onto a freeway. So when you use that type of sort of story and rationale, I'm not buying it, because I don't think that applies directly. Now, you would make the argument, well, the officer wouldn't have been there if it weren't for the protest. But at the same time, that's already illegal for someone to do what had happened. So I think that I don't think there's as much clarity in your argument as you think there is, and that's okay, because that's why we debate and discuss these things. So, I mean, I'll be voting no today. I'll probably vote no forever on bills like this, but I think I really do understand what you're trying to do here, and I wish it wasn't all of the above. I wish it was trying to create more safe environments for people, and that we create opportunities for individuals to voice their concerns for injustices that currently happen quite often. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Zerwas?
Chair Johnson, members, Representative Dean. No, and I think you know what I'm trying to do, and what I'm trying to do is deter as best we can this type of activity, which leads to a hazard for individuals that are compelled to respond to these types of illegal blockades and this illegal activity. And you are 100% right. If dozens and dozens of people hadn't have poured onto the freeway, if they hadn't hurled concrete blocks down at police officers, if they hadn't hurled construction barricades and fired incendiary devices at the police, there would have been no risk to the police. You are 100% right. But unfortunately, all of that did occur. And at the end of the day, after 5 hours of verbal warnings that they were violating the law, that they were breaking the law, when they were finally arrested, the fact that they were only charged with a misdemeanor, I don't think is commensurate with the millions of dollars of cost that we've seen as a result of this lack of activity, the hundreds of police officers required to respond to these activities over the course of the last 2 years, and the inherent danger subjected to our state troopers, St. Paul police officers, Minneapolis police officers, Transit Authority officers, Bloomington police officers, City of Burnsville police officers, and the University of Minnesota Police Department, who answered a call of mutual aid to try to get a very volatile situation under control, only to have a cinder block dropped on his head. That's what I'm trying to deter, Representative Dean.
Representative Becker-Finn?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I think just to be clear for the record, obviously we don't want to see our police officers harmed, but I don't know that we ever knew exactly who did those acts, and it wasn't necessarily the protesters who were there trying to have their voices heard. My question for you, so as you know, obviously we've debated this issue for a while now, and I believe that the right to protest is a constitutional right. It's part of being an American. So I just want to be clear. So when we're talking about this constitutional right, do you believe it's okay to place restrictions on that right to protest in order to keep the public safe?
Representative Zerwas?
Mr. Chair, members, even with the amendment, I'd like to clarify that nothing in this bill makes something that's currently legal illegal. And so I believe that everything that is currently illegal with regards to right-of-way, public nuisance, and the disruption and dangerous impact of traffic involving the light rail trains, access to airports, or the freeway system will continue to be illegal. And because of the inherent danger involved, I think the criminal penalty for violating the already in place ordinance should be implemented.
Representative Becker-Finn?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So whether legal or illegal, you're saying that it's okay to place restrictions on rights if it's in the name of public safety?
Mr. Chair, members, to be clear, this is already illegal. You have no right to park your Buick across 4 lanes of I-94. If you believe you have that right, you're confused. You don't have that right. And so you do not have a right to lock arms in PVC pipes and chain yourself with a bike lock around your neck to block a train. If you think you have that right, you are confused. You don't have the right to park your car perpendicular across the entrance to the MSP terminal. If you think you have that right, you're confused. And I can point to dozens of convictions for the misdemeanor level of this crime here in the city of St. Paul in the last 18 months of proof. You don't have that right. If someone in your caucus would like to introduce a bill to allow people to block freeways, airports, and light rail trains, then you, of course, have the opportunity to introduce that bill. But today, that is illegal.
Representative Becker-Finn?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I will point out that the language of the bill does not say anything about Buicks parked in any direction. So, you know, what's in this bill is quite broader than, you know, those specific scenarios. And just a final comment, you know, you spoke to the police time and effort and, you know, the danger that in theory that an officer is putting themselves in. And I do wonder too how much police time and money has gone into addressing other things like gun violence. And, you know, if we're going to look at that as part of how we make decisions, you know, I think it's relevant in other areas as well. So thank you.
Representative,
Well, Mr. Chair, members, I think that the danger is actual. It's not perceived. And we can point to numerous officers that were injured in handling these protests. Everything from tussles that involved sprains to incidents where officers were hospitalized or at least taken to the emergency room. I'll tell you what, when you're surrounded by 100+ people and they're above you and they're in front of you and they're behind you and they're launching bottle rockets and other fireworks at you, they're throwing things at you, there's not a perceived danger. There's an actual danger.
Representative Hillstrom?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Representative Zerwas, I just want to make it very clear that the DE1 amendment just isn't about freeways and it just isn't about protesters. And so if you look at subdivision 2, actually the section B, it also talks about restricting a passenger's access to a transit vehicle. So if I don't want my spouse to get on a transit, maybe we had a disagreement and I don't want him to get on the bus to go, and I stand in front of the door with my arm saying, don't get on, don't get on, don't get on, you can't go, I've now committed a gross misdemeanor under your bill. Has nothing to do with a protest, it has nothing to do with anything. When you added the language of restrict passenger access to the transit vehicle, you have now incorporated all sorts of folks that have nothing to do with protesting as well. And so we've had this conversation on the conference committee. I think your bill isn't just about protesting, and you've made it incredibly broad, and I'm not sure that folks want people who say, don't get on the bus, I don't want you to go, to be guilty of a gross misdemeanor as well. So pretty broad bill, and I'm a no.
Mr. Chair.
Representative Zerwas?
Representative Hillstrom, members, I would agree with you 100%. This is not a protest bill. This is a public safety bill. I have not crafted this in any way to target individuals or activities. I want to provide a safe environment for motoring public.
Representative Uglum?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, you know, we debated this last year and seen all sides of the issue and everything else. But I can tell you that countless members of my constituency have said, you know, this is a public safety bill. What about the ambulance that's delivering someone to the hospital that can't make it? What about the police officers that have to go someplace that can't make it down the freeway? And all the numerous other situations that can occur because of public safety. And Representative Dean, I think you and I grew up about the same time, and protests in the 60s, 70s, and all of that. I mean, that's part of America, and it's something that's ingrained in our culture. It happens every day and everything else. But when I look at this, I look at it and I say, there's lots of places to go and protest. And when it is endangering public safety, then we have a right, and I think we have an incumbent duty upon ourselves to take a look at this and look at it in view of public safety and act accordingly. I don't think that Representative Zerwas is against any kind of protests and things like that. The public has to be heard. And we know that the public changes perceptions because of this, and that's very important. But public safety, the mother that's being taken to the hospital in the ambulance, or even the public safety of our police officers and firefighters and things has to be taken into consideration. That's why I'm going to vote for this. And I realize that it has consequences for some of these events that have taken place, but we need to really look out for the general public on this. So thank you, Representative Zerwas, for bringing this bill forward. And it's controversial. It's controversial, and it's going to be controversial, but I think we'll get through it. Thank you.
Representative Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Representative Uglum, I disagree. It's not controversial for me. It's very personal for me, because the day this went on, my daughter was trying to fly into the airport. She flew into Terminal 1, and she couldn't get to me because of the protesters. So I told her to take that tram, take the light rail over to Terminal 2. I'd meet her in Terminal 2. I drove over to Terminal 2. She had to get escorted through the protesters to get to the train, to get to the light rail. When she got off the light rail in Terminal 2, she was met with protesters again. She had to get escorted through them. By the time she got to my vehicle, she was in tears. She actually broke down and cried when she got in my vehicle. You do not have the right to terrorize someone, and that's what I call it. They terrorized my daughter. So it isn't controversial for me. It's very personal for me, and you do not have the right to terrorize anyone. Protest all you want. We had protesting students just the other day, fine and dandy. None of that happened, but you don't have the right to terrorize anyone, and that's why I support this bill.
Representative Pinto.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I agree with Representative Hillstrom that this is a really broad bill, but the one area that it doesn't apply to is violent conduct. So I think it's really, really important to recognize, and you talk about Molotov cocktails and blocks being thrown and various things, that conduct is not encompassed by this bill, and so much of the rhetoric is focused on that. And we need to recognize that what we're talking about is interference, and some of the comments have pointed that out. We can discuss how that falls in the statutory scheme, but when we keep on making the reference to the violent conduct, that's an indication to me of the hollowness of the underlying arguments, that we keep on having to go to this area that is not in fact covered by this bill at all. We talk about how the public has a right to be heard, but it is noteworthy to me that we've heard from the public so much in testimony is the concerns of this bill. The recognizing that, as you say, Representative Zerwas, it's true this doesn't make any conduct that's currently legal illegal. What it simply does is bring down the hammer even harder on conduct that is unlawful. And I think we really want to be recognizing that when you mentioned the city of St. Paul, that there's these offenses that occurred in the city of St. Paul, I don't hear folks from there, I don't hear the city attorney who charged those offenses say, we really would have liked to charge a higher offense, the St. Paul City Council coming. So Representative Zerwas, I oppose this bill. I think that it is, it's clear that because of the rhetoric all around it, that is aimed at something different than what the bill actually describes as broad as the bill is. So I do oppose it. Thank you.
Anybody else? Representative Considine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mid-'60s, Dr. King went to Chicago, and Richard Daley, good Democrat that he was, welcomed him with open arms, took him downtown on the weekends. They had march after march until Dr. King realized that there wasn't anybody downtown during that time period, and that Daley was pulling the wool over his eyes doing this. And it wasn't until he broke out and went into the neighborhoods that he got their attention, which led to a break between the two of them. Yes, there are places you can protest, but until you get the people's attention, it doesn't do a bit of good, is what the bottom line was in Chicago. So yeah, you can protest, but until you start ticking people off, it doesn't really work. The arguments and the language that you have here looks remarkably similar to what the governor of Alabama said when he started marching in Selma. Yes, they are blocking the highway, they're blocking the bridge, it's illegal, we are putting police at risk. Sometimes when you're protesting, you do break the law, you do put people at risk, but that's also how you get people's attention. And yes, law enforcement, near and dear to my heart, worked with them for 30 years. But if you're going to shake things up and you're going to get some changes, that's how you do it. You don't get it by walking in downtown Chicago when there's nobody there. And this bill is designed, as far as I'm concerned, to try to curb protests. You might not call it a protest bill, but that's what it's designed to do. So I really can't get behind it. Thank you.
The clerk will call the roll.
Johnson,
Yes.
Lomer,
Yes.
Hillstrom,
No.
Beckerfin,
No.
Considine,
No.
Dean,
No.
Branky, Grossel,
Yes.
Howe,
Aye.
Lucero,
Yes.
Newberger,
Aye.
O'Neill, Pinto,
No.
Uglum,
Yes.
Ward,
No.
Zerwas.
Yes.
The bill passes at 9-6. Thank you, Representative Zerwas. This bill is now on its way to the general register.